Hello, nerds and geeks. I'm the real Dill, and today we're continuing the Reimagined series with Wonder Woman. In the movie, Ares is held responsible for killing off the other gods, and that will remain true in this, except his actions will tie in further to the Justice League movies. But following Darkseid's invasion, Zeus chooses to hide Earth with the same spell used on Themyscira, only on a far grander scale. To do this requires all the gods to chip in. However, Ares desired to retaliate, to attack Apocalypse and destroy their enemies forever. He saw Zeus's tactic as a temporary band-aid and that annihilation was the only solution. He remained the sole god to not join the spell, and so when all the others were weakened, he struck them down and stole what remained of their power, until Zeus was the last one and hid away the Amazons from them and created Diana. This general event will be placed at the Bronze Age collapse, with the implication being that Darkseid's invasion, followed by Ares wiping out the gods, is what led to civilization's major setback. The Amazons and Atlanteans were both hid away from Ares during this time to further prevent the mad god from breaking the spell and attempting, in their eyes, to full-heartedly invade. Not all of this needs to be learned in this movie, particularly the Atlantean side and naming Darkseid quite yet. There's still the Justice League movies and Aquaman's own Solo. Although part of Ares' plans will be finding Themyscira and Atlantis, both for better weapons and better warriors, but also for like the Atlantean ships for space travel. He might have even been looking for the Kryptonian ship, which landed here before Darkseid had. The last alteration to the mythos is that the Amazons were the creation of Ares, not Zeus, more akin to the real mythology. Hippolyta tells Diana the latter, same as the movie, but it's a lie. She frames their stand against Ares as loyalty to Zeus and the gods, but this revelation adds in some gray by reframing that loyalty as first a betrayal to what is essentially their father. Ares being jealous of Zeus and corrupting man because his powers grow off strife and conflict will be the lie that Diana believes. This makes her think killing Ares will end the Great War and restore man's heart. Steve Trevor challenges this belief instilled into her by Hippolyta, but it's Ares himself who refutes it. I don't think there needs to be a major 1v1 battle between the two. There should be a little fighting, maybe to bookend their conversation, but I think there's enough lies from Hippolyta to correct. I think there's plenty of conflict within the actual conversation. And I'd also intercut between them and Steve and his team infiltrating the base, and what they're doing is sabotaging the main manufacturing plant for the mustard gas.
Perhaps the assassin would take measures to ensure he doesn't give himself away, like a gambler concealing a tell.
Diana's naivete gets stripped from her throughout the film, readying her to hear Ares' side, and he presents it freely to her for basically the same reason in the movie. He wants her to join him, just as he desired the other gods before her to do. However, instead of his actions being motivated to expose man's heart as corrupt, and to later get them to kill themselves off, this Ares actually is trying to advance them technologically in warfare, as well as to find the Amazons and Atlanteans and whatever mythic weapons he can dig up, such as the mother boxes. But I think his monologue can still include him choosing man after the Amazons rejected him, because unlike the Atlanteans who were stronger, they were greedier and hungrier for power. And even though Diana's lasso of truth is telling her he's right, she strikes her brother down anyway because she refuses to accept so much that she's been taught that she's grown up believing is false. In the Wonder Woman movie, the climax is that, sure, man is flawed, but he's more than war and destruction, and it's not about deserve, it's about belief.
And I believe in love.
This version's climax will be this. Ares wants Diana to replace him as the god of war, take what's left of his power, and to kill him to do so. However, prior to this, Ares removes her bracelets, and this is what reveals to her and to the audience that she is a god. Those bracers acted to inhibit most of her power, and at this moment, instead of killing Ares, she cuffs him with the bracelets, to be tried by the Amazons for killing the other gods and everything else he's done. But in doing this, she starts to see there is truth to Ares' words. She's been operating under the assumption that the Germans are the aggressors of the war and thus must all be under his wicked spell. But with his god powers restrained, the spell should die, yet they're still rolling out. She sees that Steve's team is still under fire by the soldiers. Ares laughs and mocks at her for still believing Hippolyta. She lashes out. She kills the soldiers. She wrecks the German infrastructure around her, yet the machine is still turning. Ares finally tells her there will always be another war, with or without him. And in frustration, she strikes him with lightning, as if to make sure he can't be causing it all. This is when the team's bombs go off in the manufacturing plant. But Steve realizes there's a plane loaded with the stuff. They reason it's too dangerous to destroy on the ground, so Steve realizes he has to fly into the sky, and that's going to be a one-way trip. Diana sees him from a distance. He looks to her, but he can't go to her. He gets on the plane. Ares, barely alive, comforts her, saying he's fulfilling his role. Now we're adding more meaning to Ares being that British lord who helped Diana and Steve earlier on, instead of him playing both sides to guarantee mutual destruction, which is what that role was supposed to mean in the movie, but it really isn't that well done. He uses this guy, and thus Steve, to prevent the mass destruction and escalation while maintaining the advancement. Because he doesn't want man to die, he wants man to get better and better until invasion time. And Ares continues, now fulfill yours, goddess of war. Guide them to the just battle, the right war. Steve then blows up the plane, Ares fades away, leaving the bracelets. Steve's remaining team comes and drags the mourning Diana away as German soldiers regroup and pursue. All of these revelations that upend what Diana thought about the world is what leads her into studying myth and history and leads her into the line of work she does in BVS and Justice League. Not because she's familiar with that stuff, but because she's looking for answers. Diana seeing the Germans continue to fight after Ares' death, and then understanding that Ares wasn't as responsible for men's harshest deeds as she had thought, is what leads her to stay out of the spotlight. Harkening closer to the line,
100 years ago, I walked away from mankind. From a century of horrors. Man made a world where standing together is impossible.
but I also want to hint that she still acted as Wonder Woman from time to time, which I think marries with this line.
I've killed things from other worlds before.
And she also puts the bracelets back on because she's still rejecting being God of War, or really a god in general. The post-credits scene should be the actual deleted scene where Steve's team is chosen to steal the mother box and give it to the Americans. Essentially, the very mother box that creates Cyborg. But Dill, well, I know at least one person out there is thinking this. If Earth was made invisible like Themyscira, then how did Jor-El find it? Well, good question. The scout ship was remotely reactivated by the scientist while he was researching where to send his son. And that is how he deduced its conditions and coordinates. See, the ship was there before Darkseid and thus before the spell, but for a long time it wasn't able to send out information because of that spell. And when Jor-El reactivated it, he could see that Earth was otherwise hidden, which was probably another favorable factor. And of course, we know the scout ship's reactivation by Clark is what led Zod there. So we don't necessarily need this exposition front-loaded into the first film. However, Suicide Squad, the third film, and one prior to Wonder Woman, will have Steppenwolf be in contact with Earth, first accidentally by Lex through that very scout ship, and then by Enchantress through a recently active mother box. Then it will be established that limited communication is now available, but Steppenwolf still can't see Earth nor the solar system due to some form of interference with his deep probe radar, and that this has been the case for millennia. Then the film Wonder Woman teaches us that this is because of the very spell Zeus laid, and Ares warned Diana a century earlier that the spell is fading. Perhaps this is what allowed the scout ship beacon to finally break through. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to comment below if you have any suggestions or feedback. I'm the Real Dill. Goodbye.